Our friends from Micronesia Renewable Energy in the studio with us. Half a day, everyone.
Half a day.
And we're here to talk about the value of solar. Now, I think I've spoken to you guys, half a day, Jeff, half a day, everyone. I've spoken to you guys enough to know about the personal value of solar. First of all, no money down for installation, for maintenance, for all of that good stuff. And you're sort of converting your energy use into energy that is being fed into the power grid. And so when you're talking about shaving off money on your power bill for no money up front, I think that's a tremendous personal value. But let's talk about how there may be questions about the value of solar energy production for our overall government utility. So how does that fit in with what Micronesia Renewable Energy is doing right now?
Well, since 2012, Micronesia Renewable Energy has been in the solar business here in Guam. Right? Previously, I ran my solar company for about 9 years. So I've been in the industry since, for that long.
Yeah.
It was around the time where maybe there was 2 or 3 other companies in the industry. Today, there are a lot more than that. But part of the business is to harness the energy from the sun and to take on some loads at your home, and all that excess electricity has to go somewhere, right? So it goes back into the utility grid. So that's really the concept of net metering, because the utility will pay you or compensate you for that power that your system is feeding into the grid. So it's a great thing. And it was a bill and made into law back in 2004 by Speaker Ben.
Right. Recognizing that the Guam Power Authority could always use some more production,
right? And
that as a customer in the tropics during the height of the afternoon, a working solar panel is probably going to give you more energy than your house would need.
Right.
And so what are we going to do with the difference?
That's correct.
And that's where defunto Speaker Ben sort of was thinking of. Now there is there's sort of questions on whether or not solar energy this may be an oversimplification, but the question is whether or not solar energy and net metering is worth it at the end of the day. What's MRE doing to address that question?
Well, let's go back to July or August of last year, Phil, when the utility GPA, they came out with this study. It was conducted by a very reputable company called Black & Veatch.
Mm-hmm.
In that study, Black & Veatch failed to recognize value of solar. And in the industry where now there are industry professionals, we wholeheartedly believe that there is a value of solar that can be quantified. So what that number is, I don't know. But we brought in an independent consultant from the States just so that they could do a independent study here in Guam, independently of Micronesia Renewable Energy. Although we are paying for the study, he's going to do a study, and whatever the results come, we're going to go with it. But in the Black & Veatch report, you got to keep in mind that one of the recommendations was to eliminate the NEM program, the net metering program.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that was really unfair because, one, there was less than 1% penetration of solar onto the utility grid. And most places, like even Hawaii, right, they were at a penetration of 20%. And although we don't want to make the same mistakes Hawaii did, I really think that less than 1% penetration isn't that point where you should start making those really drastic decisions to eliminate the NEM program. So those were the 2 biggest things that I felt that
sort of like you're giving up on the program before it can take root.
Absolutely. And if you really think about what Speaker Ben really thought about this NEM program was, one, to have the utility access electricity outside of conventional generation. The second one was to increase our economy, right? So if you think about those different things, the NEM program, as it was written and passed into law, has really fulfilled all those things that Speaker Ben thought about back in those days, right? The industry went from 3 companies now to a handful of companies, but has increased the number of jobs here in the private sector, good paying private sector jobs. Mm-hmm. At MRE, we have about 40 employees, and none of them are entry level. None of them are paid at minimum wage. We're happy to say that our employees are paid above minimum wage. And 2, they have insurance coverage, right? So you see the industry growing. So I think that it's in the better interest of everybody, to include the utility, to get the industry involved to steer the direction into our energy future.
So let's introduce the independent consultant that we brought all the way to Guam to help answer and quantify these questions. Hafide, Ben, sorry, I need my cheat sheet here. Ben Norris. So let's talk about your company and what you guys do day in and day out.
Well, I'm with Clean Power Research out of Napa, California, and we're primarily a software company, and we provide software solutions to the utility business who are engaged in interconnecting lots and lots of small distributed energy resources like solar. And so this is software that can help manage that process. We also have some tools that can help the customer determine what the benefits, as you were saying, from their point of view, how much bill savings you would actually get by putting a solar on your roof, that kind of thing.
How do you quantify the value of solar for a government-run utility? What's the process of going into all of that?
Right, well, essentially it comes down to looking at the benefits that it brings from the utility perspective. And the most obvious one is that but every kilowatt hour that solar delivers to the grid is going to reduce the amount of fuel that you have to burn in the power plants. But there's other benefits as well. For this study, we're going to be looking at not only solar generation, but using that renewable solar energy to charge up batteries behind the meter.
Yeah.
And then that makes solar dispatchable as well, meaning you can operate that resource even after the sun goes down.
So because I think one of the things that GPA sort of was, I don't want to say late to realize, but certainly a late addition to their efforts to incorporate solar into the grid was battery storage. And I think that sometimes studies sort of look at solar as a producer and the value of it just happening right then and there, and not necessarily being, like you said, stored and dispersed at night. So I'm glad to hear that your study is also sort of focusing on if and when battery storage is implemented at a net metered customer, how is that going to also bring added value to the power grid? Because certainly, Jeff, maybe you can talk about this. Maybe GPA would find greater value if the net metering sort of process of giving energy back into the grid can also happen outside, maybe even during peak evening hours.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's one of the things that we really took a look at, because Hawaii has the same peak that Guam has, which is 6 to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So at that point being peak, that's a really important piece for a utility and an important piece for us. So we always said that battery storage is really our kingpin, or really what's really going to move our industry forward.
Yeah.
So we have done a lot of pilot projects with battery storage. We're checking these projects out, but that's going to be the key moving forward. So the study that Ben is going to be working on is going to have two components: one for just solar and what that value is, and the other one, of course, would be for solar plus storage and what that value would be for the utility. So we're pretty excited about this study.
And Ben, I think that there are battery storage implements now out there that are advertised as being able to continuously power sort of a small cul-de-sac. And I don't know if in your studies, if you're seeing, because, obviously utilities want to produce power that you're buying from them and not necessarily just being a net metered customer that is paying sort of bare bones fees and the like. If the fact that battery storage can offer more and more people to be off the grid for longer and longer, if you're seeing some maybe regulatory pushback on trying to assess or admit the value of solar, because again, that sort of does feed into less money in the utilities pocket. The more battery storage becomes I guess, effective for a single consumer, and then if you can implement this battery technology to larger customers like a gated community or a cul-de-sac.
Right, there's a number of ways that storage can be implemented, and the way you operate it really depends on, is it the customer who owns it, is it a community shared resource, or is it a utility owned resource? And the real benefits that can come out of that, regardless of ownership, is if it's dispatched according to the needs of the grid. So again, it's the peak load that we talked about, and the benefits then are not determined by who owns it, but rather by how the battery is operated. And I should also mention, batteries are one option, one technology, but there's other ways to shift loads as well. And Guam may be interested in looking at some of those as well.
Time flies when you're having fun, gentlemen, and even talking about renewable energy qualifies because we're up against the top of the hour. So Ben, when's your study looking to be completed, and when are the findings going to be made public?
It should be completed in the next 3 months or so.
Okay.
We're hoping to get some good input data and go through the calculations and issue a report.
And Jeff, as always, if anyone wants to find out how they can get some of your technology for zero down, maybe get a price beat guarantee, I know you guys are pushing that too. What's the number to call?
Yeah, thank you very much, Phil, and thanks for having us today. We appreciate it. So our number, please call if you have any questions or you need any information. It's 632-2613.
Absolutely. Micronesia Renewable Energy, helping to get you off the grid and save some money on your power bill. Got to run to the CBS News here, 9 o'clock on KGM Magana. Don't go anywhere. We have a sitting delegate in the House of Representatives, all the way from American Samoa, coming in to talk a UOG presidential lecture series. Let's talk to Amua Amata Radawagan after these. KGM Magana, News Talk K57.